I have a ton of this 8x8 paper that I still need to get through, so I am going to share a new 8x8 paper busting template with you today. Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies in time. So let's get making. Today I have 8x8 paper busting template number 7, which means there are 6 others that you can check out at JessCrafts.com, or you can buy a bundle of them on Etsy and get all the way through number 10. Get a little bit of a sneak preview of the ones that are coming up. And today's template makes 4 A2 size cards with 1 piece of 8x8 pattern paper and no scraps. It's not the best for busting paper because it does make 4 cards, but this is the next one in line, so I wanted to make sure I got that out to you guys, and I had a fun idea for it. We're gonna be using some Snowflake products today from scrapbook.com because they have this really nice bundle going on. If you are watching this video on the day it's released, they will have a Snowflake bundle, and it will include a set of snowflake dies, super detailed and pretty, a set of snowflake stamps with coordinating dies, and some holographic mirror paper. So I'm actually going to do 2 looks with this sketch today. I won't be, recording every single step because that will certainly take too long. But the first thing we're going to do is cut all of our paper into 2" by 8" strips. Then, if you have a trimmer that can trim through multiple pieces, you can cut your sheets in multiples, which I'm going to do. So I have those 4 2 by 8" strips. I have them here in my trimmer, and I'm going to measure such that I'm going to cut 3 inches off. So 8 minus 3 is 5. Trim it there, and do that again. And then each piece, sorry, I'm cutting 2 inches off this time actually. But ultimately, from each 2 by 8" strip of paper, you're gonna get a piece of 2 by 2 and 2 pieces of 2 by 3. This is all there on the sketch. It tells you exactly how to cut your paper, what measurements you want. And then I'm gonna do this all again with another sheet of paper because we're gonna be making a bunch of cards today. I'm gonna choose gray cardstock for the back of this white snowflake paper, and this is single-sided paper. I'm going to use it as single-sided paper. I'm not going to mix patterns today. I probably could, and I mean, maybe I even should, but I do like to show that single-sided paper works just fine, but you could absolutely, since I am cutting 2 sheets from the same collection, I could use some from one paper and some from the other, and that is a lot of times what people will do with my paper busting templates. You just make double the amount of cards because you're using 2 sheets of paper. After I cut the pattern paper, I then cut mats, and it tells you on the sketch as well what size mats you need. Generally, I make them just a 1/4 inch bigger. So since these were 2 by 2 and 2 by 3, my mats are 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 and 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. I need, for a set, like for 1 piece of paper, you're gonna need 4 of the 2 1/4 by 2 1/4, and then 8 of the 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. A lot of numbers right there, but don't worry about that because you don't have to know any of those numbers. I did all the number math part for you. I'm going to use yellow for the back of these mostly gray pieces, and one of the reasons that I decided not to mix the patterns is because I kind of felt like this yellow looks great on back of this gray, but this one's pretty good. Like, I definitely think you could make it work, and I could cut yellow for all of them, but then it makes it very yellow, 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 and I kind of wanted to tone it down with the gray and pull in some of the gray from the cardstock. So since I wanted to use 2 different color mats, I thought, well, then I won't mix the pattern paper, and then I won't have to worry about that decision of which color mat is best. And then when I'm making a whole bunch of cards like this, even if you're making just the 4, that's enough to kind of be in mass production mode. And you can make these all to be unique and special after you have the pattern. You can put different sentiments on them. You can, put different, if you're using stamps, for instance, coloring a bunch of different little stamps up. You can make some of these, because this is just a gray gray and yellow plaid. It doesn't even have to be like a wintry Christmas card. Of course, my snowflake card is going to have to be a little bit more like that, but what's nice is at least this pattern paper gave you some wintry options in terms of this plaid paper, but the sentiments in this collection, they gave you 6 of each sheet, including the sentiment sheet. And if I can just grab one real quick, I'll show you here. I'm probably going to use some of these sentiments, but they are just all kinds of sentiments. So like, you know, happy birthday, happy retirement, thinking of you, thank you. And so I think that, you know, it's fine to have like a happy birthday, and if somebody has a winter birthday, using that. But I could see that some people might feel like, oh, that's a lot of, not only is that a lot of sentiments, because you're getting like, I don't know, maybe like 30 on that page. You might have thought when you picked up this collection that you wanted to do kind of like, you know, a winter set of cards. So I just wanted to kind of point that out about this particular collection. And then as I assemble this, I did have some extra cardstock, some scraps of cardstock. And when I say I have paper busting or no scrap templates, what I mean is there's no pattern paper scraps left over. However, if you're going to use a full sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper and then you cut your mats out, you're probably gonna have some cardstock mats. I don't worry too much about cardstock mats. Those of you who watch my channel all the time, you know this, you've heard it. I'm gonna do things like here. I want the next layer to be a little bit popped up because here I'm going to add this. And I want it to like kind of lay really even across the card. You could absolutely just tape it straight down, but because my cardstock is a little bit thicker, it might just kind of look lumpy and bumpy, and I like that smoother look. So I'll do that. But I also will put 2 layers of my scrap cardstock behind things and use it kind of like fake foam tape. And then finally, a lot of times what's left can be used for a different card. And so I'll hang on to a lot of my scraps as well. I put them all in job ticket holders. So if I have just like a chunk of the gray left over, here, I'll show you the yellow because it's right here. There's like several pieces, smaller chunks of the yellow in that job ticket holder. And so that's how I keep things organized, even with scraps. If I did have pattern paper scraps, which I rarely do at this point, just because I have a harder time dealing with pattern paper scraps than cardstock scraps, I actually do often store my pattern paper in baggies. And this is actually a piece of, these are cardstock, but still kind of similar effect where you could, and I have scraps of that. If you put it all in the same bag, then you won't lose it. Some people just put it back like in the, just between the pages, but I find that to be a little bit messier, and I personally like this, but all up to you. Okay, so we've made the basic design of the card, and then I can keep making a whole bunch of these, and then we'll work on embellishing. Once I have all of my cards assembled, because I have these sentiments that pair well with it, I'm going to go through and pick some of these out. I think I'm going to lean towards ones that are a little bit shorter, because I think if I get some of these longer ones, the scale is not quite what I'm hoping for or what I ideally want for this card. I want them to be smaller like that. So I'm going to have some thank you cards. Maybe let's see what else there is. With love, that seems pretty small, and that's like a nice sort of general sentiment. I do want them to even be perhaps a bit like thinner too. In that instance, if you're ever trying to cut, so normally I would probably just have my cutter bees, but if I were trying to cut a really, like a longer strip like this with a scissor, I would probably pick a longer bladed scissor. You could of course do this with a trimmer too. The new Tim Holtz Precision Trimmer can cut really small pieces like this, but I think it's probably still a little faster with scissors if you're willing to accept some level of imperfection, which could also happen with the trimmer as well. But there I can then kind of customize these larger sentiments to fit on here. With the gray cards, I'm going to go to the dies and the holographic paper that are part of the bundle. I like the silver dies, or the silver die cuts. I cut them out of some of the silver paper. I don't think I want something like really large like that, but you absolutely could if that's more your preference. And I could layer them up, putting like a smaller snowflake on top of a bigger snowflake. I think that adds some extra interest to it, but what I really like, I think, is the silver paper and then layered a gold on top. So even though technically there's really no other gold going on this card, all that yellow does kind of lend itself well, and that just has a spectacular shine. And what my goal would be to just adhere like the center part of the snowflake and not try to flatten the whole snowflake down. So just enough to get it to stick, and so you want to use like a nice strong adhesive. For instance, the Barely Art glue doesn't tend to let me down. It's with this, so come around the circle there, maybe a little bit into the edges, and then do the same thing on the one on top. You will want to make sure you have a glue that is going to kind of stick even in this paper as kind of plasticky. So you'll want to take that into account. You might need to use a different kind of adhesive. If yours is really good, like paper to paper, you might need something a little bit stronger in this case. Test out your glue. But there you can see has like a really nice amount of shine and dimension, and really like steps up this very simple card. So I'll do that for all the gray ones. And then the yellow ones, or the ones with the yellow snowflakes, I want to take advantage of this. So, all right. Yellow snowflakes. I love this gray and yellow combination, but like every time I see the yellow snowflakes, it's like, don't eat yellow snow. Like it's a little bit of an interesting choice, right? For snow. But we don't typically think of that with when they're falling, and these are falling snowflakes, so it's fine. And I'm gonna just stick with my love of the yellow. Okay. So what's nice about a stamp set like the one from scrapbook.com is there's 6 snowflakes, 6 coordinating dies. I can stamp a whole bunch. So while it's not the exact same snowflake on each card, I can, you know, get enough for all 4 of my cards with one set of stamping. And then I can also line up all 6 dies, put some mint tape down, and cut them all at once. Confession, I can be a little die challenged. Like, for instance, when I was looking at the dies before I put them down, I couldn't tell which, like, of these 2 dies went with which snowflake. So a system you can use if you have trouble getting confused about, like, you know, which die goes with which snowflake or whatever your die set is, you can label all of your stamps on the backer sheet, 1 through whatever, and then you can actually draw on the dies. Now, you know, this is your choice about your supplies. I don't think it would do anything to damage them, and I'm using a Sharpie alcohol permanent marker. Mine's a little dull at this point, so a fine tip one might be a little bit better, but basically what I'm doing is I'm realizing, okay, here's stamp number 3, and so then I'm just doing my best to write a teeny tiny 3 on the edge of the die. I'll let it dry before I put these through my die cut machine, and then this way, the next time, if I'm having trouble, I can just use the numbers to help me. I also wanted to point out, if you do this and then decide later that you wish you hadn't, usually you can get Sharpie off with an alcohol wipe on non-porous surfaces like this. Again, it's kind of all, do this at your own risk, but if this is something that you would feel comfortable for, and then here, when you do it with the backer sheet, let me put some white underneath it. You should be able to wipe the number off of your backer sheet too, but be careful because you might wipe this printing off as well, so just be really targeted. And then you should be able to clean that off and revert your stamp back to, you know, what it was like before. Okay, so then I can add 1 snowflake or a bunch of snowflakes, and you might like the higher contrast of like stamping these in gray instead. I just thought it was a good opportunity to kind of pull in that yellow, and I do think they look really pretty in that delicate kind of color, but you know, I can totally understand if you guys are like, I'm never using that color for snowflakes, no thank you. So then that would be my 2 finished cards, and I would recreate them. I don't know, I can't decide if I want 1 snowflake or a little gathering of them. If I did put more than 1, I would put 3. I don't think 2 would look very good, but it would mimic the fact that there are like 3 panels on the card as well. And I'll keep, you know, choosing sentiments and embellishments. I did decide how I wanted to embellish these cards with the yellow snowflakes. I went in with, and this might might not make sense later in the video because I recorded this after I finished the video. But I decided I wanted to add a little bit of glitter pops of color from scrapbook.com as well. This is the copper, so it's a little bit more orangey, but I've tested it on one and I felt like it looked like it didn't clash or anything like that. So I'm just putting a little bit of glitter around my snowflake, and each snowflake's gonna be a little bit different in how much glitter it gets. And I will say the Christmas time is like one of the only times, or like, you know, winter or holiday stuff, like this snowy time of year, these snowy type projects, it's one of the few times I actually even think to bring out some glitter. And I'm just putting little dots down. This comes out really smooth. I've always been pretty happy with my results and getting them pretty even and that kind of thing. And then to get rid of any of those like little peaks that you might get as you pull the glue away, I just like to tap the card, and that kind of helps to settle them a little bit. And they'll also, you know, settle a little bit over time as well as they dry, but that's a little tip there. If you're watching this when it comes out, check out that that's, you know, bundle. I don't know what the price will be, but it usually is a pretty good deal. So if you find yourself using snowflakes a lot, or if you don't have any snowflake stamps or dies in your collection, I do find those are one of the shapes that I do come back to season. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with the share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.